Hey everyone, and thank you so much for checking out my resource, Parts of a Pay Stub. I created this because I was sick of lecturing in the front of the room about the different words and parts of a pay stub. There wasn't really an exciting way to do it. There wasn't an engaging way to do it. And I just wanted something else. Like, I know it's just low order vocabulary at the end of the day, but I want students to learn more about that, use it in a different way, and hopefully remember and retain what they're doing afterwards, which I think is what we all want as teachers anyway. So I created this two-part activity to help address that, and it's been a big hit with my students, and I want to share it with you right now. So what you've got in here is an infographic that's going to introduce students to the different parts of a pay stub. Now you can introduce it in two ways. The first is you can give them a digital puzzle. And while we're like, well, digital puzzle, it's not the activity itself that is super educational, but what it will do is force them to engage with the content on a longer time frame. Basically, it's going to take about 20 minutes for them to complete it. And you can change the difficulty level if you want to speed it up. So you can play it as smaller puzzle, medium. The default is 90 pieces, which takes me about 15 minutes, but I know what the puzzle looks like. People I've tested on have said 20 to 30 minutes has been enough time for them. So if you want this kind of lighthearted activity that's going to have some engagement in it as well, it's going to have some educational value, this can be a great one to do. You can also choose to introduce it as a coloring sheet. And this is what the color version of it looks like. So this is what the puzzle is going to look like when it's completed. But you've got a sample pay stub, you've got the different parts of the pay stub that are identified using the numbers, and it's just like an easy conversation starter for you to have with the students. So once they've assembled a puzzle or they've colored it in, you look at the final graphic, you start talking about the different parts, explaining through, and the kid's like, okay, like I've spent time with this already, and now I'm more curious about it, or I want to know what these words are, or I'm familiar with it, and I've got it. The second part of this activity is you give either students individually or in groups this sheet, and it's got 3 sample pay stubs on it. They're all ones that I created with modern tax numbers in mind, modern minimum wage as well. And you got salaried workers, you got part-time, hourly workers too. And each one has different information on it, so a different employer and different things going on, different states as well. So some have state tax, some do not. The part-time one does not, on the bottom right, does not collect state income tax, or does not collect any state income tax either. And you can talk about why that might be. So there's lots of great conversation starters in here. But the purpose of it is actually to play a Kahoot. And if you're not familiar with Kahoot, it's a wonderful resource, free for educators to use on a basic level. You can, of course, upgrade if you want more different types of games or the ability to create content. But you're going to get a link to this Kahoot, so parts of a pay stub. You're going to hit host live, and students are going to play it, or you could choose to assign it if you want to do this as a on-demand activity with your students. Should work just fine. You hit play, it's going to pop up like this, and students are going to get questions like, how often does the person in pay stub number 3 get paid? So they would go back to their pay stub, they would look at number 3, and they would say, okay, what's the time frame? So period, it's 9/8 to 10/7. Okay, so that seems like a month. And then you go back and you're like, okay, monthly, tick it off. And if you're not familiar with Kahoot, you get points for getting the question right, and then also for how fast you answer it. And there are 13 questions in that Kahoot. So overall, this will fill a class period pretty well. You have the conversations afterwards about what you see in the sample pay stubs, why certain answers are the way they are. So don't move on to the next question until you people are comfortable and familiar with what's going on and why the answer was what it was. And students should have a great understanding at the end of this. I've got some questions in your teacher instructions too for fostering classroom discussion at the end of this, and maybe getting students to apply this now to their own pay stubs if they are part-time workers, or seeing if a parent would be willing to share what theirs looks like, maybe redact it a little bit with the numbers. Probably not, but hey, you never know. Some parents are very willing to be open with their kids. They just need the invitation. All right, if you have any questions, please send me an email, rob@fireeducator.com, and I would be happy to answer those for you, or leave it in the Q&A section on TPT.